Did you?
Let's see. Okay, so you're okay. Agenda, lab notes. What else?
Um, what was the improvements that were made? Design history.
Well, let me look.
And what else?
Just a minute, and I will tell you. It's ever so nice to be able to.
Also, inventory. I think it did something about.
I'm looking here. Okay, so the okay. Okay, so let's see. I gotta see let's see the dates here. Okay, so okay, so I added a photo field to resources. And I added photo URL fields to and so and also then I added that resource. I filled out that resource detail buttons on lab notes, and I filtered the process output and input choices in the process forms. You know, so you won't be able to select, let's say, work as an output. You know, basically you can only select those things that have proper configurations for being a process output or process input.
Okay.
I did a bunch of work on those configuration elements that is sort of like hidden. I'm going to write something up about them sometime. I started writing it. I'm not finished. I have to look at it some more about the resource relationships and event types. You can also add now from the lab notes form. You can change the process by adding outputs and inputs without leaving the form. And so I think that's, and then I went through an exercise. I didn't have to add any new features in order to work through how to use designs and ideas in value flows. You know, so that you can you know, I wrote up a page on the wiki about that. You know, so you can pull the whole history of a design into the ongoing value flow and create, you know, basically cite anything you want, and it will get pulled into the ongoing value. And those were the software changes. And then we're planning on visiting you guys, showing up on your doorway. And I'd like to put that on the agenda, and I want to see if we can grab Lynn for that part of the discussion and pull her into the hangout. She's working her day job, you know, so she can't stay for the whole thing, but we can do that part at some point. You know, let's go through the other stuff and then see where that goes. Hey, somebody's in the bay. Hey. Okay, so so are there things that we need to discuss and about those changes, or is everything clear enough?
Well, we can walk through a few things, I think.
All right.
And what's important for me is processes and lab notes, and
Yeah.
also design history, because I'm putting designs into the infrastructure now, into the
Yep.
database. And Francois, I don't know if
Yeah, a tour in lab notes and the R&D projects to show the menus, the rolling menus.
okay. You gonna share your screen, Bob, or?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you gonna share your screen to walk us through these things, or you want me to do it and you follow, or you guide me?
I'm gonna just give me a second here. Well, you can walk us through anything that you wanna take a look at. I wanted to show you the I just want to show you this resource history thing, okay? So let me share that for a minute, and all right, okay.
So I'm just going to introduce Jonathan to this concept of design history. So the idea is to have designs log into the system, and then Bob can. So let's say you open a new R&D project, and you say, I'm going to use the Mosquito. So you log the design of the Mosquito and the prototype, and that project is going to be linked to another project. So every time you open a project, you link to resources in other projects in the past, and then Bob can extract from that the network of how these designs, prototypes are interlinked from process to process for the value.
Okay. So can you see?
Yeah.
Can you see this? Can you see this? This history here?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I did you know, this isn't the content here is not going to make sense. Don't worry about it. You know, but basically I claimed here that I did a newer design for Mosquito optics. All right, and I'm improving the previous new design. So here is like so here is I had this so I produced this new design on February 17th, and then I used the previous new design, which I had also created, and then that goes back to create the Mosquito optics modular design, which I based all that stuff on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's like let's see if it'll follow me here through all this stuff. So here's my lab notes for that. So can you see the lab notes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I have this newer design here, and it's based on this new design which I had also created. All right, and so then here is the previous lab notes for my previous projects, and so this one I made a new design from the Mosquito optics modular design. Can you see that one?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right, so I'm starting with Mosquito optics modular, and I could have used both of them. I could use something else, you know. I could use some ideas. I could have used some of the results of some R&D work. You know, I can pull all that stuff in here. You if I had it in here, I can add more inputs.
Okay.
These are kind of like so it's like one process builds on another process, builds on another process. So this is when you use something like that, then you're basically, this is like a citation in a scientific paper.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You say like, this is what I based this on. And so then like this one then will be brought in, and so then when we go to this when we go to this history, then we can see, okay, so we're starting with the Mosquito optics modular design, and then we're going through this new design, and then we're going through this newer design. And so we can take this. I mean, this can go back as far as you want. As you start using this, then there's going to be probably some more improvements to the lab notes that you're going to want as far as pulling all this stuff in. But it works now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not inclined to make improvements on this until you actually start trying to do it. Does that make sense?
Yes. So now,
okay.
When I put designs into the system, I take the inputs. I define inputs for every design, right? When you create.
Yep. What
design as a resource.
Yeah. So it's like for example, if you did a bunch of R&D work, and you had your output of your R&D work, whatever it may be, whether it be a documented idea, whether it be a version of a product that you're working on, whatever that may be, then you can pull that in to the design if your design was based on that R&D work or on that idea or on a previous design or on two previous designs or whatever, whatever you used as an input that should be credited. Now we're gonna have to have some discussion about what are the logical, let's say that in my case, I used the optics modular design to create my new design, and then I created my newer design based on the new design. Well, obviously that's already also based on the Mosquito optics modular design, but that's already been credited in the chain. So so I don't know, I don't know exactly how that's going to work in terms of filtering the stuff that should be listed for you as previous designs. Maybe if something has already been credited, you don't list it. Maybe you list it anyway because maybe you're going to use it in some other context. These are the kinds of things that will evolve as people start using this. What makes it easier, what makes it more complicated. All right?
Yes.
Well, I'm looking at the design page here.
Yep.
On the economic resource page.
Yep, okay. Yep, I got it.
And where can I link this design to other designs?
You do that through processes in Lab Notes. You do that in Lab Notes.
Oh.
Okay, so you have to create a process to redesign something. And then in the lab notes for that, you use the previous design as an input. You can't do that in admin.
Can I?
You cannot.
Okay. So let's say for the designs that are entered into the system,
mm-hmm.
I have to create a lab node, so I go to demand.
Yep.
Can you follow this on the screen?
Well, it depends on what you want to do. If basically you just want to redesign something, you can go over onto the work page and just create a simple process to do that. It doesn't have to actually be an R&D project. I mean, it could be an R&D project, but it doesn't have to be.
So what about the past designs that were done? We still have to create an R&D project for it.
Well, let's think about that. It seems like a lot of work to do all that stuff. Maybe there's a way that I can do that stuff programmatically and not have people have to go through all that work of creating it. But at the same time, you do want to give people credit for their work. I'm saying don't start recreating processes for all that stuff now. Let's create the designs. Let's see what the design history would look like. See what we got in terms of your spreadsheets as far as the work that went into that kind of stuff. And then we'll think about how to recapture the design history. Does that make sense?
Okay.
So for the new design, it's straightforward. We just create an R&D project and link it to the past design.
It could be an R&D project, or it could be a simple process from the work page. Either way, doesn't matter.
Okay.
Whichever makes more sense to you.
Okay, and then we need to find a way to create the linkage between past designs.
Yes, and that's something that we will talk about. I don't think it is something that we need to deal with right now. I think that we're gonna, when we come there, really what we want to do is we want to have you guys document all the work that you do while we're there through the system. We want everybody to do that, and we want to watch them do it, and we want to help them do it. And so that will be like new work going forward. And sometime in there, we can also discuss, we can discuss kind of these longer range issues as far as like how do we hook up the design history, and that will get done, but let's not worry about it too much right this minute. What I want to do before we get there is we're also talking about a way for people to enter really simple kinds of things like office work and going to meetings and whatever, time contributions that don't require the whole process machinery.
Yes.
Okay.
And lab notes machinery, and so I want to get that done before we arrive. So that's out there. That I think is the next. That was going to be the next thing I was going to work on, because I want it to be there when we get there, and then we'll sort of like see that, do people understand, when you use one or when you use the other?
Yes, because this is the entry door to the system.
Yeah. Now, I think I would do an R&D project if I wanted to have something that has a bunch of processes involved in it. So I want to have, okay, this is an R&D project, and we're going to do this, and then we're going to have this other stuff going on, and we'll have this set of you'll have like a process network going on for an R&D project, and they're all interconnected. If I was just going to do a simple process where all I'm going to do is I'm just going to redesign, I'm going to revise this design, then I would do it with a simple process on the from the work page. And it's going to, those are all judgment calls. Either way will work. Yeah, I'm hoping it's not going to be too horribly complicated for people to figure out which one to use when.
Okay.
I can see here the inventory.
Yeah. Yep. There's your design history. I mean design resources, not design history. Yeah.
How do you get to the design history?
You don't have the design history yet because you don't have any design history out there. When you do, that's something that I faked it. Okay, I mocked it up on my computer. It's I need to have some actual stuff to work with, and then the history of any of these inventory items will be linked to its entry in the inventory. You know, there'll be a hyperlink there, and you can go and you can see the whole history of how that got there, because many different items in inventory will have a history. You know, you're going to make products, okay? They will have a history, how they got there, how that was made, when, what were the components that went into it. You know, for example, you got a mosquito sensor out there, and it's at somebody's lab, and somebody finds something wrong with it. All right, so you're going to need to go back into the history of that sensor, and you say, okay, what were the components? What we did use there? Where did we get that from? Oh, those guys. All right. You know, their score goes down. You know what I'm saying? You know? And now, okay, now we know who to avoid, and then we can okay, here's a replacement, you know, and whatever, you know, but you're going to run into that kind of stuff quite a lot. You know, where you want to go back into the history of how something was made, when, who did it, whatever.
So when I look at the design inventory here, I see that you put the resource type as a category, and then we have the different instantiations of this design, right?
Yes.
Like joint type, straight mirror. This is a design that exists in the form of a drawing.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, and let me see if I can filter those by prototype. Let's see what kind of prototypes we have.
Well, you got overview item still out there, so you might want to get rid of that. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there you got your prototypes.
Okay, these are the prototypes for the Mosquito.
Yep.
Okay. We also had a discussion about associating space, I mean not space, but location of material resources like equipment and prototypes. That was not added, right?
I have not done anything with location yet, but it is something that that will probably make sense to add for each resource, where you know that resources that have a that you know, physical resources, particularly tools, you will want to know where they are.
Yeah.
Particularly when you're working in separate spaces.
Yes.
So yeah, we will want to add locations to resources. It's something that wants to have a discussion, though, you know, because the spaces are probably the locations.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So we need to think about how to do. There's a lot. Locations turn out to be in software. Turn out to be complicated. A complicated it's a complicated like subdomain. You know, people think it's simple. It's not. So we'll have to discuss that. Now, you're finding when you're going through GitHub and Value Network, you're still finding my repository, which is a little bit behind the scenes, a little bit behind the state of. I'm working in the ValNet. You can go from GitHub there. Yeah, in GitHub. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, here. Because I wanted to.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah, that's the one that I'm working in now.
So where do you keep your reminders for things to do on the wiki?
Issues.
Oh, issues.
Yeah. There you go. Okay, you remember that about recipes do not handle cycles, you know, various things. Those are things that I haven't done anything with yet, but I know I need to do. So yeah, we're going to put you can put and I can put locations out there, or you have to have a GitHub account, I think, to do that.
Oh, okay.
Try it. See if you can do it. Maybe they're forgiving. Ah, yes. All right. No, you got to sign up. Okay. Okay. I will add. Okay, here we go. Issues. I'm going to add one. New issues. Okay, new issue. Oh, and then I need to, that will be an enhancement.
We can add a photo by URL now. That's also new.
Okay. Okay. I'm sorry. What did you say?
We can add a photo when we add economic resource types by URL.
Yes. You have both a photo URL and a photo that you can upload.
Is that photo by URL going to be uploaded to the server?
No, that will live wherever it does. Wherever it does, the uploads are uploaded to the server. The photo URLs are not.
Okay, so if we have a dynamic database of pictures, let's say on Picasa, that could not work.
I mean, there's trade-offs in both cases. You know, if you already have something, the photo URL is nice if you already got something out there on the wiki or on your Google sites or something like that, then you can just reference it. You don't have to take it up, have it on your computer and then upload it. The uploaded photos are going to be possibly a little bit faster and a little bit more reliable, but they also occupy space on the server, and so that space on the server is something that after a while will bump us into a larger account on the server. In other words, we basically got to pay for that. We got to pay for that.
Yeah.
So there's trade-offs. I mean, we're in no hurry. We're not in trouble. Not a big deal. But those are the those are choices.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm just going through the process of creating another design and a prototype, which is a true case.
Okay, are you working on that right now? Can we see your screen?
Oh, sorry.
Lost something. Yeah, the screen's here. Sometimes you lose it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But, all right. So if you refresh that, page of issues, then you would see I added locations, resource locations as an issue.
Okay. So let me. Okay, so I took the link from here, and I'll put it. Can you see now the screen? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna put it here. I just created an empty. Oops, sorry. An empty design drawing, which I will fill up later. This here. Oh, actually, no, I don't have to do that. Okay. Let me just create this.
Boy, Google's not doing a very great job with resolution here.
Okay. So I just created a new design type. And now I'm going to create a resource.
Okay.
I mean, I created a resource type design. I created a resource now.
Okay.
Which will link directly to this design type. Okay, so there is design. Oops. It didn't update here. Sometimes it takes let me see. Oh, there you go.
So TB, you are in charge. I mean, you created some new designs. Well, you entered information in the system. Are you happy with the way it works? Do you think it's easy?
The process I'm going through now?
Yeah.
I think it's straightforward, yeah. It's very simple.
Okay.
But you see, so this is where I could probably link to other design too, Bob,
I did not understand, sorry.
When I create a new design, I think it would be more straightforward if I could already link it to a previous design.
Yeah, but you have to you can't do that in admin. You have to do that in lab notes.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. I mean, the basic thing about the admin setup is something that basically comes out of the box with Django, and it is limited, you know, in what it can and cannot. You know, it's intended for super users to tinker with the data. You know, so we're going to want to have a now it's possible that the I mean, going forward, what's going to happen is you're going to be logging a time contribution at the same time as you revise a design, right?
Yes.
So the lab notes interface is actually going to is.
Yeah, go on, Bob.
So the lab notes interface, basically I'm saying the lab notes interface is actually the proper one for that. Now, where you're going, where you're running into a question here is that you have all of this design history and you're not actually working on these designs, you're just entering all this stuff, and you want to see how these are connected historically, and that's something, you know, I will create a way for you to do that, but that's very different from going forward. You know, this is pulling in the history that has already happened. But even pulling in the history that has already happened is you probably want to get the time contributions and the authors in there as well, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, so this coupler splitter, is that the one that you just did?
Yes, and I'm now creating an R&D project.
Oh, okay.
Which is to continuously improve this design, right?
Oh, cool. Yes. Okay, good. Yes.
And I create as an input the design.
Yeah.
Oh. So the input only pulls resource types, but not the design itself.
The lab notes will pull the resources.
Got it. Okay. And the output of this would be a better design, right? That's a sort of a cycle, right? Like a self-reference to the same design.
There is a cycle of creating a process, and basically an R&D project is a process with a little bit of other machinery. Creating a process, committing to creating the work. You have to create the work inputs if you want to work on it, and then it'll show up on your work page, and you can commit to do that work, and then you can open the lab notes for that. What I would like to do once we figure out how the people want to use this stuff is I want to have you have a fast track for that stuff, so you can just do it all in one swoop.
Okay.
But I want to get the components good first, but then it would be possible to do one swoop, create the process, sign up for the process, do the work, so you get from the beginning to the lab notes really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Basically I'm creating a bunch of components here, that we can hook together in a variety of ways.
So at the end of the day, people will log their contribution in the new system, and they will affect a time to a task, and this task, if it's an R&D project, if it's R&D,
well, there will be for the R&D project or any process, there will be work requirements, and that's what will show up as tasks to do.
mm-hmm.
In other words, if you just put as an output, I want a new design, and I have this existing design that I will use in an input, there's no work to do there. So you have to have a work input.
Okay, so if you didn't specify a work input, you can't call
it. Won't. There's nothing. Yeah, there's nothing for somebody to do there. But you can go to that process or the R&D project and change it. And add the work requirement. But if there's no work requirement, then there's nothing for it. The work requirements are what show up as tasks.
Yeah. So I think you're completely right. If we start now implementing your contribution in the system, we will see the sequences and where it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Well, it's like where not only where it doesn't make sense, but it's also like where it's too complicated.
Yes,
where
exactly.
we can streamline it. In other words, because you look, there's these various things that need to be done. How can we streamline these?
Yeah.
I mean, I have some ideas, and maybe I'll do a streamlined version. I want to do this. I want to do this other simple time contribution interface first, but then if I get that done soon enough, then I'll try a streamlined streamlining some of this stuff a little bit. Hooking the various pieces together. This is like really this is like it's called incremental software development or piecemeal growth, or where you keep developing the software in these feedback loops, and so you get things out there, and so people have to have some imagination and work with it, and I work with it, and then what you see today is not necessarily what you will see tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I expect you're starting to get used to that, but it's not like you buy something from Microsoft and it's all done.
Mm-hmm. And you're stuck with it.
Well, that's the other side. I mean, it is finished, but it's finished. It's like this will never be finished.
Yes. And about implementing.
That has its pluses and minuses. I mean, there are no totally
perfect
totally good things.
Yeah. But so you plan to implement now to start on implementing the log your contribution. I call it like this, but I don't know what will be the name. But do you know exactly where to start, or it's still we still have to define this?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Okay, so now we want to get rid of the log my contribution spreadsheets.
Yeah.
So we want to replace this process in the value accounting system. And you think, you said it's the next logical step you want to have. Do you know where to start to have this, or we need to define it?
I'm looking at your screen now, and you are creating is this an R&D project? I couldn't see the top. Is this an R&D project?
Oh, I was just I saw TV.
Okay, you're changing an R&D project.
Yeah. Just I wanted to have the error message popping, and I think it's very good.
Yeah, must have at least one output, right? Yeah, we made that a rule. If you recall.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to have at least one output.
Yeah. This is very user friendly.
So yeah, so the flow here is that you create either, it could be an R&D project or it could just be a simple process. And I'm not totally sure that I don't think that makes sense to people yet. I have to think about that because it's clear that it doesn't, when you would use one and when you would use the other. But basically, yeah, you have to give it some work requirements if you want it to show, if you want people to work on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then when you have work requirements, and they will show up on that work page. And then there's two steps there. There's the one where you see it out there, it's unassigned, and then you take that task.
So you begin with that. Either I take a task, an assigned task, or a non-assigned task.
Yeah. You can't assign something to somebody. They have to assign themselves. So we said take this task that you're assigning yourself. Basically, you're volunteering to do that.
Okay, but at the end of the day, you log your time, and maybe you didn't pick a task at first when you came in the lab.
When I'm not sure I'm understanding. You log your work in processes through the lab notes. So like there's this 3 steps to create a process, sign up to do the work, and then do the work. And the third step is to do the work. That's through the lab notes. So those are the 3 steps, and I can streamline those 3 steps. We have to think about how they should be streamlined. I think the first thing I would do is I would do the streamline, combine the take this task and the lab notes, so you can take this task and either schedule it for someplace in the future or start now. So you'd have like a start now button, and that would take you directly to the lab notes. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Now, the creating the processes, I don't know who's going to create the processes, or is the person who's going to do the work also going to be the person who creates the process? If that, or the project, or whatever, or is that if that is the case, in those cases, then we could streamline the whole thing. We could do create the process, commit to do the work, and start doing the work all in one swoop. Where it's a case of somebody creates the process and they create a bunch of work requirements, not all of which they're going to do, and the whole thing might be scheduled for sometime in the future, then you need all of those 3 steps. You can't combine them all into one.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like okay, so if you have a customer order, for example, for something that has a recipe, then all of those processes to fulfill that customer order with all of their work requirements will be created automatically. And likewise, if you have an R&D project and you specify as an input something that has a recipe, like a joint type transducer, then all of the processes to create the joint type transducer will be, with all of their work requirements, will be created automatically.
Yes.
So there's a bunch of different paths through this set of components. You know, there's the very automatic process path where you where you got a customer order for something that has a recipe, and there's the less automatic path, you know, but partly automatic is where you create a R&D process that uses an input that has a recipe, and then there's the kind of process where everything is totally R&D. There are no recipes, and you're just making it up on the fly.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yes.
I'm a bit lost here with the this R&D project that I created, and now I'm setting up the lab notes. So I went and I added an input, and again, is this problem that I have between the category and the thing.
Yeah.
So here I have the resource type that was pulled in.
Yeah, I can't read your screen at all. I can't see what's happening. It's the resolution is just horrible. I somehow it comes through pretty well on Francois' screen.
Yeah,
when Francois shares his screen, it's readable. When you share your screen, it is not readable.
Okay, so Francois, can you go to work?
Yes. Go to work today.
Well, I can. Yeah, I can actually do it myself. You know.
And well, let's see, because he's here and I can tell him what to do. Can you take an unassigned task? Can you do a search for the coupler? Do a search for coupler, see if you find it. This is also a test to see if different members can take the same project, R&D project.
Oh.
Okay, so you don't see it because I took it, so it disappeared from you.
Well, no, it should still be on that page. It should be. Let me see where we're at here.
Or because Francois is not in the system as a guy that does optical.
And I'm not logged in myself. That's why I'm not seeing that stuff. All right, let's see. Okay, so we have a whole bunch of. We have work in process. What is it that you were looking for?
Coupler.
Coupler.
I'm not seeing it. What did you call the what's the name of the work? What kind of work? Or what did you call the process?
Yeah, let me see it here. My computer is slow now. Coupler.
What did you call the process? Or
it's
what did
R&D?
R&D? And okay, so let me see what. Okay, I'm seeing a bunch of different R&D
Yes.
projects. There's some assembly ones. Now,
if you do a search, coupler.
You may not see coupler on here. Was coupler an output, an input, or was it the name of the process?
Was it the name of the process?
It is in the name of the process?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing coupler out here. I don't know where it went. I see improve the Y connector splitter.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, that doesn't say coupler.
Okay.
That's now that's in you're working on that.
I just opened the lab note. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So what I'm trying to do, Bob, is going through the whole scenario of how we would use this system.
Yeah.
For example, I create a project, and then I want to see if somebody else can also take that project and work on the project with me. So that's the collaboration aspect.
Okay. You have to add, right now, you have to add another work requirement.
Okay. And I do that in the lab notes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it will show up for somebody else to do that.
You do.
We may want to have a simpler way to do that again, but that's the way it is right now.
Okay, that's
You have to add another work requirement.
simple.
So add as an input, right?
Yes. Yes.
Whoops.
Oh, interesting. And we got a bug too.
I'm also on the same page, so I don't know if it's a problem.
Yes, R&D.
Yeah, there's
Instead of calling it coupler, I call it connector.
yeah.
Okay, add input.
Yeah.
Okay, can you see it, Francois, now in the work requirement? Because I added some work.
Okay, yes, I see another work requirement. All right, I see it.
I mean, Bob, for the database, because now what we have is database centric. So for the database, this is okay. You need to create a work requirement in order for somebody else to come and take that work.
Mm-hmm.
That is good. We're following the ontology that we're developing.
Okay,
maybe at the interface level, you can have a button say invite a friend, which in the end, what it does as a database operation creates a work requirement and then sends an email to that guy. So it's probably just an interface feature that we have to create, not necessarily work on the database,
No, there's nothing that needs to be done on the database. It all works.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as the interface, there would be yeah, if you want to call it invite a friend and have that now the question then would be, do you want to, you're going to need to somehow to specify a type of work that you want them to do.
Yeah.
It would also be possible for us to add a like join this task button,
Mm-hmm.
for somebody to see it. Okay, I can help you with that, and join this task. That would be another way to do it. So you could invite people or whatever, but basically adding, and you can do that from the lab notes. In other words, you can add another work requirement from the lab notes, and it will show up then, and then somebody else can take it. So it's not called invite a friend, but it actually works like that.
Yeah, you just signal a need, right?
Beg pardon?
You can signal a need to the community, or you can actually invite someone specifically.
That's what it does. That's what it does. Yeah, and that's one of the things that I want to work on for the front page. In other words, I want the front page to be have to show the ongoing value stream and opportunities. So what I'm thinking of is like there would be a section of work to do. that would be like unassigned tasks, stuff to buy, things that are required that nobody has
Right.
purchased. And then there would be like value being produced, like what's actually coming out. And possibly some other things, but it would be like sections of the ongoing value stream, and so the work to do is like a signal out there for people to plug in.
Yeah, that's very nice.
I mean, there's just a little comment here.
Beg pardon?
Just a little comment on this particular lab note that I just created to improve the Y coupler splitter. You see, you have material requirements.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have outputs, and probably you wanna put here inputs, like just generic stuff, so you can have material and immaterial or non-material inputs, right?
Because
the design, it's like non-material, and the work is non-material.
Don't the designs don't show up as material? The designs show up as materials.
No.
Well, I mean, the way I see your form here, you put. Can you see my screen?
In the lab notes.
No, I can't. I can see your screen, but I can't. Oh yeah, the designs are showing up as material requirements. Now they should do that. They should be design requirements. Yeah. Okay.
I think it's just the title that you put in the form. You have outputs here, and maybe inputs instead of material requirements, or just requirements.
We could have inputs. They could. Okay. So I will put that out as issues.
Okay.
And since I'm in there.
So now, Francois, you can take this task, right, and open the lab notes. You open the lab note, okay. And I will have another question here.
Right.
So, what I wanted to go with this, Bob.
Just a second.
Let me recap what we did. I created a design as a resource type design, okay, and then I created a resource which points to a document that has some drawings about this design. Okay, so that's the instantiation as a resource of a resource type that is a design. Okay, and now I created a project, an R&D project, which has it as an output, okay, to improve this design, and has as an input the previous design.
Yep.
And then we have a lab note, which is the documentation and the logging of time and resources for this particular R&D project. Okay. And I invited Francois to work with it. This is perfect up to now. Okay, we can collaborate on this R&D project. It was created, the resources and resource type was created. Now, the end thing that I would like to see here is to have like a link inside the lab note to very concrete things, like what is the actual design that we're using, part of that category or that resource type of design, right? So I wonder how can I do it here. So if I add an input, it will add a resource type. Can we go to the actual resource? The actual resource? Same thing for
Okay,
equipment, for example.
So you want links to the resource documentation.
Yes, and I think that is the actual resource that will flow through the value chain, right?
Yep.
Is this design that was created at that date, and maybe it's this prototype that comes from this particular prototype that lives somewhere in a lab and comes from this design, and this particular equipment that we have, like the microscope in this lab that is used for this project. You see, so in the end, I think we want to link to physical and real stuff, right?
Yep. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll add a link. I'll help hyperlink from the resource to its instantiation.
Because it's not the case now.
But how can I pull the instantiations here? The actual microscope that we use, the actual prototypes that we use, the actual designs that we use. Can we pull them in the lab notes?
If you add an input of a type, of a resource type, it will bring in the resources of that type.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I did that for the design.
Yeah. But okay, for the R&D, when you create the R&D project, you do that.
Yeah. So I cannot read your screen. Did it bring in and you lost your screen share too?
Oh, I think it did. Okay. I think it did bring the actual design. You're right. Okay, now I can see it.
Yeah. And if you add an input of a type of microscope, it will show you the microscope of that type. If you add an input of a space, it will show you the spaces. Whatever it is, but whatever type of input that you add, it will bring in the resources of that type. And I will add hyperlinks from the resources to. I'm working on a resource page, so it will show you all of the details of that resource, and it will be like a open another tab kind of link, so it's not gonna close your lab notes.
Yes. Okay, so I just added a new piece of equipment.
Yep.
So I clicked on microscope as a resource type.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Okay.
And now I have, here they are.
Yep.
So large and small. So let's say
Yep.
Now used here is the amount of minutes used, right? Or the amount of
hours, yeah.
Okay, so I can put here 1 hour. And if I let the other ones at 0, it means that these are not the ones that I'm using.
Correct. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I got it. Now it answers my question. I think it's perfect, Bob.
All right.
And this won't be in conflict with the R&D project you created, because you call also inputs and you announce the number of hours you will use a microscope, for example.
Let me rephrase that to see if I understand. So you're saying, if you edit inputs in your lab note, is that going to go also in the R&D project? And be associated with that project?
Exact.
Yes. Yes, it's all associated with that R&D project. If you go to the demand page and you click on the link, then it will show all that stuff.
But which one has the last word?
I don't understand.
You mean here in the... share my screen.
Okay, I'm looking at the R&D project.
Yeah.
Here it is.
And
in the R&D project, I announce I will use this microscope 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And in the lab notes, I can change and claim I don't use it. That's it.
Oh, I got another bug here. Just a second.
Yeah, so is that going to overwrite? So it's a matter of, how do you say, right access of these different actions that you do on the interface, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the, okay, the software. Whoops, I have an error of 500.
Yeah, I got an error here too. You went and looked at the. Oh, very interesting. Yeah, it's an endless. I ran out of. It's a infinite. We got an infinite loop.
Infinite loop. Okay.
If we're trying to look at that, if you're trying to look at the details of that R&D process, yeah. Yep. Okay, so I got a couple of bugs from here, and
Okay.
I will fix them.
Okay.
This copy button here that you just added, Bob, on project, that's a duplicated project, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Okay, so instead of editing every little input on the forums, you have a copy of that, and then you just change a few things.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay.
Yes.
I'm happy with the meeting so far because I went through creating a design, making an R&D project, inviting, and so I can have a good idea about how it works. Yeah. So I can let Francois to.
Yeah, I'm very happy too with the process for now, and I saw so you improved the menus. I mean, when we choose as an input work, we can choose now time in hours, but we can choose also volume in milliliters. So this doesn't make sense. I don't know if you can refine that and has to have the correct unit corresponding to the correct item.
I'm sorry, I did not understand that again.
Okay, so I am creating an R&D project. I choose as an input work R&D.
Yeah.
And the unit I can choose time in hours or in minutes, but I can also choose area in square meters or volume in milliliter.
It should default to time hours, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is a minor point for now, but the kind of thing that can break the system, I think.
Well, you can use a different unit. It won't break. It won't make much sense, but you can do that.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's worth preventing people from doing that, because sometimes you will sometimes need to use another unit. So why don't we wait with that and see if it becomes a problem, and if it does, then we can.
Okay, if it doesn't create bugs, that's okay.
Yeah, it won't. It will create situations that don't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, so you could specify pounds of work or something like that. No, I don't know how to do that, but it's not actually a bug. I mean, we can lock that down if we need to. Some of those cases, I don't know, yet if it makes sense for people to be able to change that. I do have it defaulting, I think, now in at least most cases. So, Francois, you lost your screen share here too. I can't see it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Should we?
But I don't have a lot more to say, except that I just want to be sure what's next. Are you going to work on the replacing the log my contribution spreadsheets?
There are a couple of bugs that showed up today. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fix those bugs. We have some requests for changes to Layup Notes, the user interface, which I wrote down as issues on GitHub, and I will repeat them here. And you can tell me if I got everything. that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, let me read.
So most of those I can do pretty simply, and so I will do those as well. But then, yes, the next thing I was going to do was going to be a simple interface for logging time contributions that do not need the whole process machinery. You know, as in office work and, you know, whatever. And we'll see, you know, what fits there and what doesn't fit there. I will have, when I start working on that, I will have some questions. All right?
Okay.
But I don't have the questions together in my mind well enough to ask them right now.
Okay. So do you want to talk about about Montreal?
Do I want to talk about?
About Montreal.
Yes, I do, but I want to take a quick bathroom break first, all right?
Okay.
All right, I'll be right back.